Hi, I'm Burnett Herrick, and I started playing at East Carolina University, which was ECTC, East Carolina Teachers College then, and we didn't have a team, so I am still eligible to play 4 years on a college team in my dreams. Anyway, I'm 75 years old, and I started playing when I was 17, my first year in college, and got hooked. But I lived on a sailboat for a few years early on in my first marriage, and we had wooden rackets, and the rackets would warp on a boat by the water, and the gut strings would pop. So it was very hard to keep tennis equipment while you're on a sailboat. I'll tell you about a match I played yesterday with this girl young enough to be my granddaughter. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and she's a skinny little thing, and I'm white-haired. She thought, well, this ought to be quick. So I'm up 4-1, and then she beat me 7-5, 6-2. I want a rematch. Not many of the women on my teams want to play singles, so they're stuck with me because I love singles, and I'm there to do it. So one of the gals who beat me was from South Africa, was #1 on the ECU team as a freshman. So I had this fantasy life, you know, about playing on a college team again, and I thought, they're too good. She's so good. And you know, the younger ones hit with more topspin, and they don't mind staying out there all day. I watched them, and they like, you know, back and forth. Whereas my age group, it's back and forth, but it's bringing the person back and forth, giving them the drop and giving them the lob. Because women have trouble running up and back. They can run side to side all day long, a lot of them. But up and back is a little more difficult. So.
Can you talk about tennis and kind of how much of part of your life that it's been so far?
Oh, it is a big part, man. I tell you, it is a big part because I was on the first women's pro tour, the Virginia Slims pro tour that was started by Gladys Hellman, you know, World Tennis, and her daughter Julie played, and they actually belonged to the club that I belonged to, you know, a few decades later when I remarried, and that was the Heights Casino, which is, as far as I'm aware, is the oldest indoor tennis club in the world, and started, I think, in 1904. So I've been waiting for somebody to correct me, and nobody has. So I'm sticking with the story. So 1904, and I wrote up the history of the club when we celebrated our centennial. And so I started I think the Virginia Slims Pro Tour started in 1972 or 3, and I went to 5 cities. And just had a great time. I've lost to everybody you've ever heard of. Well, not anymore, because but people who were well known then, Billie Jean King and Chris Everett and Julie Hellman and Rose Marie Casals. They'd start in the quarterfinals. They'd get buys to the quarterfinals, so we'd run and work and run on to the next city, and we had a great time. And I've played on some of the U.S. Cup teams. I've been to Turkey twice, and I'm going again in the fall. And I've been to Christchurch, New Zealand on the Cup team. And I played in the heyday of tennis. So my age group was, you know, pretty tough. Now, I played on the Super Seniors and the 4-0. I played on the 4-5, but there was no one for me to play with, so they bumped me down. Nobody ever was so happy to get bumped down. So it's good to wake up and be alive, but because I look at the obits and see people a lot younger who've gone on, but okay, I plan to play when I'm in my hundreds. So waking up and playing, you know, you don't take anything for granted, but you do have to stay fit so you don't get injured. And so I do yoga Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I do aquatics Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I like to loosen up the muscles before I start playing, so you don't feel too stiff.
Yeah.
And then I didn't do it today, but I like to stretch after I play for flexibility, and that's what's crucial. And I watch what I eat. I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat beef, pork, or chicken. I do eat some fish, and a lot of vegetables and fruits and nuts and grains and seeds. And I try not to eat too much that's white, and I try to not eat too much sugar, but I bet I eat more than you do. The best thing is to have a routine, don't you think? And go to bed at the same time every night, within reason, and don't worry about it when you don't. Eat the best you can eat, and don't worry about it when you don't. You know, it's okay to break the rules because you're following them on a daily basis. And I try to eat breakfast like a queen, and lunch like a princess, and dinner like a pauper, and that's not original. That was Adele Davis in a book called Let's Eat Right to Keep Fit. And so it's very important to eat right and to exercise a lot and just maintain a healthy lifestyle. I think that's the key to. I want to play tennis in my hundreds, and I want to live to be 125. And we have some women a lot older than I am. We're going to have our first championship in the 80s, the women's 80s, and we're going to have our first championship in the men's 85s in Turkey, the team. So we're going to have that. We're going to have a team. But you know what? I love tennis too much. Life is so short to try to do all the. I sing in the choir at church, and I volunteer for hospice, and I'm on the women's club and the garden club, and a few more. And so it's very hard to do all that and have time for golf.